I don't know what just happened there, but it wasn't playing properly. So I'm just gonna do it again, and then I'll just edit it the other side when we're done.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know why it's only showing on a little bit of the screen. It's not showing the whole screen. So I'm just gonna play with it for a minute. So sorry guys, just bear with me.
Woohoo! Can't believe another week has passed again. Sara, how are you?
What is going on? 2025 is like, we are already nearly halfway through March. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm good.
Indeed.
How are you, Janine?
Yes, also good. Thank you. So a warm welcome to everybody for another empowering episode of Woman Wise Podcast. I am Janine Lingenfelder, and of course, joining me today is my co-host, amazing Sara. And just to remind people about Woman Wise, our mission is to truly create a space for women to connect, grow, and of course, share their journeys. Right, Sara?
Absolutely. And the whole point of this was to hear what other women have experienced, how they've overcome their challenges, and really inspire our listeners, either if they're stuck in their own place at the moment, or if they're going through something, whatever's going on for you guys. It would be great to feel that this podcast is really helping and actually empowering and inspiring. So yeah, and of course, as always, we have an amazing guest. I mean, our guests are just fantastic. Laura Patac, she is a leader in emotional intelligence, storytelling, personal development, and so much more. So a big, massive welcome, Laura.
Hello, everyone. Such an empowering music at the beginning of your podcast. So thank you so much for having me, and a warm hello to all of your listeners and viewers. And I've been inspired by all of your podcasts because I listened before coming to this podcast. I did a bit of homework, and I'm very inspired by all the topics which you ladies you bring into women's attention, Women's Wise podcast. But I think that the topics are somehow universally needed for everyone who is on the path of personal or professional growth. So congratulations for this. And congratulations for the courage to bring this into the world.
Oh, well, thank you. Which we really appreciate that. And I'm glad to hear you watch some of the podcasts.
Yeah, even me, I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what it's about. So thank you for that, Laura.
So Laura, tell us tell us about you. Who are you? Where are you now? And of course, how on earth did you get to do what you're doing now?
Well, I would start saying that my story is a sort of like story which has been built through some realizations during life, because you know that we all have our own path, our own achievements, challenges. But I think that in life there is a handful of realizations, and I'm very excited to share some of those with you guys today. So I'm Romanian. I moved back to Dubai last year, and I consider Dubai somehow a second home away from home. Because it's not my first time living in Dubai. I lived before, like 2016, 2017, for 2 years, and I found it the place where we as women, we really can display our full powers and superpowers. And we can really be ourselves, and that culture embraces us, and we embrace back the culture. And through that process, there are so many amazing things coming up. But coming back to my story, I'll start saying that at the age of 16, I discovered my superpower.
Oh,
And
Nice.
you know that usually superheroes, when you are thinking about superhero movies, the discovery of the superpower comes through a challenge, through sometimes even a tragic moment. If you think about, Spider-Man was bitten by a spider, Batman lost the parents. So everything is bubbling up somehow in a moment of challenge. So my moment of challenge when I was 16, actually, I lost two very dear people to my heart. One, my grandmother, and the other, my father left. So, as an introverted child, and you might not say that, listening to me, because I'm talkative, but my nature, it's a very introverted one. So, as an introverted child, I was faced with the challenge that I couldn't express my thinking, my emotions, and all that kind of like feelings bubbling up inside me. So what I did, I started to journal. And still through journaling, actually, I was somehow too raw for anyone to read. So what I started to do, I found this encryption in metaphor, and I started to write poetry.
oh wow.
So when my mom and my friends they first read what I was writing, I've seen how they connected with my emotions and with my thinking. So that realization which came up when I was 16, it was, well, I just found a way to connect with others, and others to connect with my emotions and my thinking, and I kept writing, and I kept writing poetry. So that was for me, for the introverted child, to find a way to express myself, to be understood by others, and to have a reaction back. That was critical. So I took this, I call my superpower creativity, translated into a very powerful writing. And continuing doing that, when I joined the corporate world, and I was in corporate for over 25 years, guys. So, so in the corporate world, imagine that everything is a storytelling. When you are doing a presentation in front of the board, when you are engaging your team in a project, when you are giving feedback, where you are even introducing yourself to others, everything is storytelling. So therefore, I took that creativity into the storytelling, into the corporate world.
Yeah.
And doing so, actually, some magic happened in a way that when you bring into the conversation a bit of vivid imaginary or metaphors, or even you very vulnerable, you share some of your learnings, you realize that in the corporate world, you create that connection with others, and they reciprocate to you because they have the desire to connect very authentic and genuine with you. Doing this, that brought me having an amazing journey, 7 countries, 5 continents, various cultures. I've met amazing people. I was like always thinking about what I'm doing in any role I was having, still connected with my purpose and my values. And this kind of regular check-in, kept me very grounded and very, very authentic. So corporate life taught me so much. It helped me grow as a leader, as a woman. It was the space where actually I learned how to have a very powerful voice, but also how to bring people up, mentoring people in the corporate life, and coaching and becoming that kind of role model. I think it's part of the personal growth of everyone, right? So corporate life, in corporate life, I also learned that connecting with my purpose, you really need to leave something back. You really need to leave some traces. So I started to ask myself the questions, how people will talk about me after I'll be leaving my role, and how they will, when they are thinking about me, what they are thinking. So therefore, I started not only to engage very proactively in asking feedback, but also understand how people, they really perceive me as a person, not as a boss. And that actually, I had another realization, that the realization is that my purpose, it's still very valid nowadays. The purpose which I somehow defined when I was in my early 20s. And it reads like, I am here because I really want to create impact, and impact positively people's life, and to really share in order to receive back. So in this way, when I was like close to 50, I got back to my writing, and I realized that everyone's life has a love language. And you're gonna you're gonna laugh, but I think that each and every one of us, we have a love language.
Mhm.
And our love language, it's about our values, which translate into actions. And my love language reads love, which is learning, open mind, versatility, and empowerment. And
Oh,
Love
under,
that.
understanding my love language, actually I've started to consciously give back. And in my writing, and even leaving the corporations, I decided to embrace entrepreneurship and this line of work, which is um, close to it's close to education. It's close to mentoring, and really through the things I'm writing and I'm teaching, to empower people to discover their love language, and to connect through emotional intelligence with their own emotions, but with other people's emotions as well. So that's in short my own story. It has three big realizations, and I encourage everyone to use the realization method, not only to understand some of the critical events in their life, but also to maybe understand and realize what their superpower is.
so I'm going to ask you about how, when you were so young, like in your early 20s, you discovered your purpose, because that's quite unusual. And yeah, I mean, obviously there are some people who they just know what they want to do with their lives when they're, but they're few and far between. Most people struggle, and I know I was one of them, between one thing and another, and what am I really here for? And for me, I was in my early 30s before I discovered what my purpose was. So how did you do it at such a young age?
I did it because somehow I was forced through the nature of the environment in those days, because being left alone with my mom, and my mom and I, we had a good relationship, we're strong, but my relationship was through my grandmother. So when in my early 20s, my mother and I, we were building to our relationship, and we were asking ourselves the question. It was like, I think that right now that I'm talking, I realized that actually my mother is my first mentor. And you know what I mean? And my mother was, and I was like, at university, and my mother was asking me, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go from here? You really have to think about it. And getting to answer questions like, what is your aspiration? How do you see yourself walking through your life? What is important for you? Even in school, I remember even in school, I was a giver because I was meditating people for mathematics, kids for in mathematics. So what I realized, like giving meditations, lending books. I was a big reader. I was a bit of a geek. I think by the age of 16, I was like reading almost 1,000 books, and we were having quite a very nice library at home. So this kind of like sharing, it was in my nature. And when my mother was asking me, what do you want to do? And I said, Mom, whatever I'm doing, I think that I can help people because I help friends with books. I help kids in a lower grades to learn mathematics. I learn my best friends to do roller skating. So just looking to this, I realized that it's about sharing knowledge, sharing experience. And I said, whatever I'm gonna do in life, Mom, I think that I'm just gonna share things, and I, for sure, the universe is going to bring me something back, and it did. I hope that I answered your question.
Well,
You know,
and loads of questions coming out of it. So, Janine, go.
yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. The one thing that pops out from what you're saying is, you know, there's resilience. There's aspects in storytelling of resilience, and many of us have, you know, have faced personal and professional struggles, and the way that we overcome them, that often shapes who we are today, right? So I guess, Laura, my question is, how do stories of resilience help women to navigate challenges? Because I'm sure that you had a lot of resilience where you are today.
Yes, well, when I was coming this morning to your podcast, Women Wise podcast, and I was thinking in the last 5 days about how our experience is going to be and what value I could bring in. Actually, I realized that just think a moment about Dubai. Like you live in Dubai, I moved back to Dubai. Most of the people living in Dubai, they are coming from somewhere.
Yep.
That in itself, it's a very big change, right? And changing your way of living, embracing a new culture, finding a job, building a business, um, facing a very new environment, that shows resilience. So what I was thinking this morning, I said, well, you know what? I think that everyone who lives in Dubai, actually, they are extremely resilient because they really take the challenge of moving from one place to another, and they make a living, they build a house, they found a job, and that those are not kind of like easy changes, right? So I was coming with this and I said, my God. But I think one thing which resilience, and what is resilience? So resilience, it's the ability to face challenges and roadblocks and to really emerge, you know, on the other side much stronger. And hear me out, this much stronger, I think this is the moment when we really need to pause and to intake what we just experienced. Because after each and every challenge, when we go to the other side, we are saying, oh yes, we are here. But do we celebrate that properly? Do we take the space to think, okay, so I'm here, I'm on the other side. What did I learn from what I just experienced? Because that challenge in itself can reveal strengths or even weaknesses, and sometimes weaknesses which are our
Oh, where did she
We
go?
lost her. Just might get you to just turn your mic down a wee bit, Janine. I don't know where she went. So hopefully
Yeah, I
she'll be
don't know
back
where
on.
she's going.
Her camera, she's still on. Well, this is amazing conversation, and I'm hoping that Laura will come back. But I think it's such a pertinent point, is that every single person who is not Emirati, who lives in Dubai, have gone through the challenge of moving here, leaving
Absolutely.
your family, your friends, your work, your home country, whatever it is. I mean, I think that's such an amazing point.
No, exactly. And I think with storytelling, it helps us to also understand each other better. And the other thing that I love about storytelling and finding out these stories from all women around the world is you can really understand their life and kind of be in their shoes to truly understand where they're coming from, and then also how you can help them and how you can relate to their stories and grow even more.
Oh,
Storytelling is
absolutely. I mean, you and I met because of stories.
yes, storytelling helps to cultivate.
We were telling our stories, and or in a big group, and there was something about each other's stories that just really resonated, and you thought, yeah, I get this person because of the story, and it's not about what you do or your job or even where you come from. It's those shared experiences that are encapsulated in the storytelling.
Exactly. And I think with storytelling as well, empathy comes along. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, let's just see if we can get hold of Laura on a text message and see what happened. You have her number, and I will edit this. Oh, she's gone off completely. So I can edit this bit out.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna just WhatsApp her on the group.
Here she is. Here she is.
Oh, she's back. Yeah, there she is. Hi.
Hello, apologies. I think that something just happened and my screen blacked out. But I was still able to hear you. So I heard all your conversation.
That's okay. So let's go. So what was the last thing you said? Because we were talking about stories. But we were just saying how everyone who's in Dubai, who's moved here, has had to be resilient. If they've moved and survived, I guess not everyone survives here. Not everyone. I mean, we talk about resilience, but not everyone has resilience. And I think that definition is, to be able to go through challenges and overcome roadblocks and be stronger on the other side. I think it's because I've often, you hear words and you're thinking, okay, but what does that mean to you? What does it mean about you? What does it mean about your story? So for you, what do you think is the biggest aspect of resilience that you have experienced yourself?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to resilience, and somehow I think I don't want to brag, but I think that resilience is in my DNA.
You have to brag. It's women wise. This is the whole point.
Yeah. So I think the resilience, and we women inherently we are resilient. This is my belief. I totally believe this. I think what I learned understanding resilience as being one of the other powers. I realized that I really need to celebrate when I'm having an achievement. I also I'm looking back in order to understand what brought me on the other side. But I think that the most important realization when you go through challenges, when you look back, it's indeed, and I was talking that it's indeed your strengths, which somehow you are aware, but it's also what are those moments of fear or doubt, or the moments when actually you were almost giving up, and how you escalated that, what made you move on. And I realized that community and friends and the inner circle, they are an extremely powerful support to anyone going through a challenge. And if I'm about to think about resilience and what supports you through a challenge, I think that support model, which could be your family, your friends, your networking. Let's think about how we, the three of us, we came together in this podcast, supporting each other and learning from each other, right? So that support model, it's a must. And for anyone moving from one country to another, and I'm just giving you the example of moving back to Dubai in a framework which was very different than I don't know 6-7 years ago when I was living there, and my connections were not there, or very few of them were there, right? So therefore, as an entrepreneur, and my status was I was an employee when I was few years back, and now I'm an entrepreneur. The status in itself is very different. So to make a living and to be out there, the first thing which I did, because I learned in the past, is to consolidate the support model. So the support model, the Strategic Business Connect, you guys, and there are so many other women which I connected. My friends in Dubai, I have 2 beautiful women friends in Dubai. One works in real estate, and another one still in corporations. So that support model helped me overcome the challenges. And when you are facing the challenge, the other thing which I totally learn and I advise people to do, right? People, they have this impatience, right? Like, I really want to get over very fast. I need to happen like yesterday, right? So when you rush through a challenge, it's going to take longer. I think a challenge is like you eat the elephant one piece at a time, like very simple steps. And you take it, and when you take it like in this kind of like small, simple steps, you give yourself permission to celebrate each and every milestone before you go to the end of the world, the road. And when you are celebrating each and every milestone, it's like you have a bit of more oxygen to go to the next milestone. So part of my journey moving back to Dubai and my entrepreneurship, even coming to your podcast today, for me, and it's the first podcast I'm as a guest in Dubai. It's like
It will be the first
that,
of many after this, I can tell you now.
Absolutely.
it's like an oxygen, and I celebrate that, and I'm very grateful because that gives me the oxygen to go to my next milestone. So this coming back to Dubai experience, it showed me that all what I learned in the past, applying it makes sense. And I learned so much, not only about myself, but I learned a lot from all the people around me. I learned how I can do things better. I know how I can integrate better into the business community. So as long as you keep an open mind and you realize that you have blind spots, I think people, they need to be aware that we all have blind spots. And
100%.
Very
But
true.
can I just talk about we're going to come to the blind spots in a minute, but I think the fact that you focus first on giving yourself the oxygen from the wins, I think I love that
Powerful.
metaphor. I just think it's so powerful. And recently, Janine is now involved in a networking franchise. And what I love about when the networking groups come together, it's like, okay, what are your wins? For the last week, what have been your wins? And I think every single person has forgotten until that moment. And you can see everyone looking in their diaries is, what did I do last week? And it's like, oh yeah. And the stories that come out from those wins are so inspiring. And I think I love that phrase. It gives you oxygen for the next step. I think it's fantastic. I love it.
I'm glad, and I do hope that through all the stories which we share here and we share today, people get this value and a bit of wisdom, which maybe long run is going to have an impact. I think the work with which you, Janine, do, and you, Sara, and I do, it's less about the outcome, it's more about the impact. And
Yeah.
there is a very big difference between outcome and impact. People mostly define success, and I might digress here, but you bear with me a bit.
That's okay. I go on tangents. I go off on tangents too. So it's always relevant though.
So So when people think about success, they define success as an outcome, right? I want to build a business. I want to close that contract. And the outcome is usually associated with a goal, which I just mentioned. But I think if they go one little extra mile and they think about how this outcome is going to impact long term and how it impacts me, what did I learn? I signed a contract. Okay. So is that contract, that achievement is going to have an impact for customer, for partnerships, for whom? What did I learn? What are the hoops and challenges I went through getting to that outcome? What did I learn? That is where the outcome becomes maybe tangible, maybe a fact, maybe less tangible. But the point is that the impact of that outcome is going to be long lasting. So to me, when coming back to the resilience, when I'm saying what did I learn and how stronger I emerge on the other side, it's about the impact of things I learned, I overcome, the people I found on the way, which actually they will create impact long term for the next things I'm gonna be doing.
I love that. I love. Do you want to go back to the blind spot, Sara, before I go?
Yeah, no. So sorry, I had interrupted you about the blind spots, but I think the winds tick, oxygen tick. Okay, now what else do we need to look at to help us on our journey?
I have a theory, and we are still talking resilience, right? So I have a theory saying that resilience is very strongly linked with resourcefulness. And the resourcefulness is that kind of creativity to find adjacent solutions, to really have a different path for solving for things, right? So when I'm thinking about people being resilient, think about how many times you were in the position in what you do to find solutions and to do things differently with maybe less money, less effort, not having all what you need, and to really bring a bit of creativity, saying, oh, but hey, I can do it differently, or I know someone who can help me. That I think resilience is strongly linked with resourcefulness. And also when I think, and maybe I'm just closing the resilience point with this, when I think of resilience, actually, I think that resilience is equal resourcefulness plus relationships which you build and the support model which you build for yourself. It's plus the outcome, the results, but it's also plus the reflection which you really need to allow yourself in order to celebrate and to understand what are the new things which you learn and what being stronger means for you. So I'm calling it 4 R's of resilience: resourcefulness, relation, results, and reflection. I'm really encouraging people to think through, and your listeners. And I think when you talk resilience and building relationships, definitely we need to talk about emotional intelligence and empathy. I think this is somehow a given, and the good news for everyone is that emotional intelligence can be developed.
Yeah. Well, unless you're a psychopath.
Say it again.
I said, unless you're a psychopath, and then you don't think you have any issues, and everything's fine, and you don't have any blind spots, and but because there are people out there who are like that. I do think that the majority of people yeah, emotional intelligence is absolutely, it is a learnable skill.
Yeah, and I would like to talk about blind spots in relationship with emotional intelligence. Um, so let's have a definition of emotional intelligence. So we know IQ, and IQ, it's the intelligent quotient. It's measured the person intellectual abilities in relationship with others, while emotional intelligence is measuring, actually it's a reflection of your emotions in relationship with others, but also the way how you understand other people's emotions and react to that, right? It's very simple, not very complicated. But when it comes to what are the pillars of emotional intelligence, well, there are five. So sometimes people are thinking emotional intelligence is equal empathy. Empathy is one of the five pillars of emotional intelligence. And I'm just gonna go briefly through the five pillars. And the first one is self-awareness. And what means self-awareness is that it's about, you know, where you stand as emotional intelligence skills, right? And this is where the blind spots happen. The second one, it's about self-regulation. And self-regulation means that you do really understand how you react, and you don't shoot from the hip, you control your emotions, and you give the other people space to display their emotions properly. And self-regulation, it's another area where there are blind spots, because because people mostly, as I said at the beginning, they think empathy more. When they think emotional intelligence, they think empathy. But how you can display empathy if you don't master your self-awareness and your self-regulation, and you don't know how to control your emotions and how your emotions are playing out in relationship with others, right? So I say right a lot.
No, I think it's really important, because so the way someone once described it to me is, everyone has a swamp, and it's not very useful to jump into someone else's swamp and join them and feel everything that they're feeling, and you're both crying together in the swamp, because sometimes now you're stuck in it, or maybe they'll climb up and out and leave you in their swamp. So I think empathy on its own, absolutely, I think is quite a dangerous thing. In a way, it can make you very exhausted and very drained, because you're
and
just
very and yes and very yes sorry to interrupt. And also very, you become vulnerable, and in a sense, if you don't control that, even it can weakens you, that drain of energy and everything, right? So self-awareness, self-regulation. The third pillar of emotional intelligence is motivation. And it's not the motivation of a paycheck or a status. It's about what is that kind of higher calling or purpose which makes you get out of bed every day and give the energy in doing things, and really the motivation which rallies people around you. The fourth one is empathy. And when we are talking about empathy, some people, they have this very simple description that you really need to put yourself in other person's shoes. Well, I haven't been in your shoes, Janine or Sara, but I think empathy, it's about understanding the other people's emotions, and really understanding the situation as well, and making a decision to react and to comfort and to have an emotional response to that through active listening, understanding, coming with some feedback, giving. And this is another thing which I learned in my life, is that sometimes we give advices very easily without people asking. I think asking for permission to give an advice, it's one. And also you really need to have someone asking you, say, what do you think about it, right? I gave you I put my story on a silver plate. What do you think about it? Also, people, they really need to ask for help and for your opinion, because sometimes your opinion might come like ill advice or ill moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So empathy. And I also believe that, and I'm gonna just pick on what you said, Sara. We cannot empathize with everybody.
Mm.
I think naturally people, they are attracted by communication, the stories, the similar experiences. We build relationship based on stories, and listening, and having common passions, values. But ultimately, we empathize naturally and genuinely with the people whom we feel that we really have a natural connection. I also think that you can empathize with people with whom you see that they are going through a similar challenge which you went, and you know that you're going to be helpful. And in the work what I'm doing, interacting with people who've been in the same place where I was 30 years ago, it makes me empathize, because I know exactly the struggles, the challenges. I know exactly the pain points which they are going through. So therefore, naturally, I can empathize with the experience, and I can really bring value, and I can bring expertise and knowledge to help them move on. And the last one on emotional intelligence are the social skills. So social skills are a very big part of emotional intelligence, because it's the way how you build rapport, you build relationships, but also how you carry on relationships in your life. We've met today, we are going to meet maybe over a coffee. There are relationships with whom you interact maybe one time, but the question is, what are those relationships where you see the value to build on it and to create rapport, and to bring them into your life, because together we are much stronger and we bring value to each other. So thinking emotional intelligence, self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, imagine how many areas of development an individual could have working on some of these areas.
My brain has literally gone, oh, you can do this for over here, and you can do this for, and it was like, so I just want to just address one thing, which is something that I kind of, it's taken a long time to get to it, but I got to the realization that there was actually sort of 3 different variations of empathy. So there was the first one, which I think is the lowest form, is sympathy.
Yes.
Oh, you poor thing, and I don't know
Yeah.
anyone who really, apart from, unless you're unwell, when you're not sick, if you're sick and someone says, oh, you poor thing, I think it's okay. But I think if you're telling your story and someone feels sorry for you, I don't think it's very helpful. I don't think it's very helpful.
I totally agree. If you get a message and someone is saying, unfortunately, I cannot make it, I'm sick, and because you are in a relationship, at least a communication relationship already, you might reciprocate, saying, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, I hope you get better soon. But it's a very basic relationship. It's just communication.
It's a low level. It's a low, but
Exactly.
I think there's a little something else sometimes with sympathy, which is almost, you can almost feel the person being so relieved that it's not them.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Yes.
They're like,
True.
Yes.
you're like, you poor thing. Oh, thank God that's not me. Thank God that's not my child. Thank God that's not my relationship. So it's almost like there is no connection really. It's actually a disconnect, I think. But and everyone
Yeah.
knows that feeling. Everyone knows the feeling. There's a bit of judgment going on. It's like, they're just there's definitely something negative happening in that situation. And empathy, I sometimes feel that it is a little bit too much of feeling what the other person's feeling. For me personally, I like the word compassion, because you're staying in your own solid ground and you see that someone is suffering and you see it, and you because we all want to be seen. And I think recognizing that someone is going through it, but also understanding this is never going to, nothing lasts forever. Everything changes, everything passes. And to see that person as resilient, to watch them and go, I know you can do this. I hear that you're going through something now, but there's more to you than your problem.
Yeah. And
Yes.
and com- and I think when it comes to empathy, depending on the relationship, and because we are all related to each other with a different level in relationship. Maybe some of us, we are in the early stage of the relationship. Some of us, we are much more advanced. We already know things about the person. I know your story. I know some of your values. I understand where you are going, your aspirations. That's a very different level. And it's a very different level of relationship when you talk about family and very close friends, right? So the way how you empathize, it's very different. And also compassion, the compassion comes like, yes, I feel you, I hear you. Tell me, if I can, how can I help you?
Yeah. I like that aspect of ask permission to offer help, because
Yes,
when advice is unsolicited and it's just given, it actually can do more harm than good, I think.
I agree, and it happened to me a couple of times in life. That's why, um, when I have unsolicited kind of advice,
You know what
I
you
don't
should do.
I
I
was
don't
thinking the
Right.
same.
yeah, I don't shut myself down. I'm listening, because it's free, first of all. and
True.
and you never know. And to me, um, it shows also, if you are thinking that someone comes to you with unsolicited advice, it also shows you that that person might care more than you think that they care,
True.
right? And maybe that relationship, you will never, you take that with you, and that relationship might evolve to the next stage. You never know. It's up to you what you're going to do with that advice, which comes for
True.
free.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
it.
It's free.
It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
free.
love it.
you
So
might as well listen. You don't have to act on it, but you might as well listen.
Yeah.
exactly. And I also think that when people are coming with this kind of free advice, I think that they are coming from a place of good,
Yeah.
and that in itself, it shows that somehow they care.
Mm.
And that for me, it's like, wow, actually, if he or she cares about my situation, that's interesting.
It's a good
That
reframe.
it's a very good read. Now, when you also have, and I think that we all have in our life, the kind of advices which are coming from a weird place and maybe not a good one, those are the ones that are putting you on a dead road or a dead end. Those are the times where we really need to have a very good judgment, for ourselves to listen. Actually, you listen anyhow, but to take that advice into an action. um, but yeah, any advice is a free advice.
Exactly. Laura, you talked about self-awareness, and I think a lot of people actually struggle with self-awareness. Can you possibly share some practical tips or steps for someone to take to better understand their own emotions?
Well, um, I'm gonna be saying I'm gonna be giving some very practical tools, um, and after that I'm talking about some questions which you ask yourself to discover some of your to discover your superpower, for example, because we
Yes.
started with a superpower.
And
So
we have to come back to the superpower as well, because this is the whole crux for me was about this conversation.
I love this. I love this. So a few years back, I discovered this tool. It's called uh, the Clifton Strengths
Mm.
tool. It's an assessment which you can do online. I think it gives you, so the result, the outcome of the assessment are those kind of skills, abilities which we all have, but they are ranked in as importance and the way how you carry those abilities and skills with you. Because we all have a shred of empathy, we all have a shred of creativity, we all have a shred of resilience, but it's up to us and the way how we live our life and we carry on ourselves through life, through learning and experiences, that some of these abilities are more prominent than others. So what Clifton Strength gives you, it gives you a hierarchy of your top 10 skills and abilities. While the top 10 and creativity absolutely came up, I was about to be very concerned not coming up in my top 10. But the top 10 abilities or skills which you have, they are the ones which you carry on with you every day. They kick in immediately when you get out of bed. You are good at that. Now, the next 10 are the ones that I'm calling those the reading glasses. You have it, but you exercise those abilities or those skills only when you need it, right?
Mm.
And the last 10, I'm calling them the party glasses. You really need to make, imagine that you are going to a party and you really need to buy some party glasses and you need to put an outfit. That's an effort. So the last 10 are the abilities which you have it, but you make an effort to display it.
Mm.
So I encourage your viewers to really have a chance to assess, very simple. And I think there is a little fee which you need to pay for the full 30, but the first 5 are free. The Clifton Strength assessment. When I did mine, I had a bit of, and I'll be very honest here, I had a bit of surprise that empathy came to me on the second bucket.
Huh?
Empathy naturally was not in my first 10. So when I realized that, I said, it means that I'm using my empathy only when I feel that I need to, not all the time. And that's a choice. And there is
I was
nothing
going to say
wrong with that.
I was going to say that actually sounds like a good thing, because, like you said,
Yes.
if you're feeling what everyone else is feeling all the time, how can you
You'll
get
be
anything done?
exhausted.
Yeah, you are
You would,
exhausted.
it's so
You are.
drained. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first tip when it comes to resilience. Now, to assess sorry, I was
So,
my
so,
mind
so
my mind just
self-awareness.
went somewhere else. When it comes to self-assessment, now I think there are a couple of questions which I'm asking myself almost every quarter, not every day, but every quarter. There are these questions pop up in my head for my birthday, during the new year, those kind of moments when you feel that you are crossing the line to the next chapter in your life, so the questions which I'm asking as self-reflection are: what do I still enjoy most doing in my life? what is that? Is it still the writing, the creativity, meeting people, getting to connect with others, or there is something else? The other question which I'm asking myself is that, what are those kind of problems that I have solved and they really transform me?
Mm.
I really gain something extremely valuable for myself. And I realize that I can do more, I can be more, I can give more. And the question which I really like asking people when I meet them first is that, if you are who you are today, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, I love that question. By the way, we seem to have lost Janine, so I'm hoping she'll come back in before the before the end of the podcast. But I know she was going to have some problems with her internet potentially.
So these are my favorite three questions which I like asking myself. And I think answering these questions also deserves that you create for yourself a white space to answer that. You cannot answer that driving through traffic. You cannot answer that just like, thinking for 5 minutes. You really need to be intentional and meaningful, asking the questions, but also answering that. There are there are there are some questions which I usually ask myself when I really want to see if I'm still connected with my values and my purpose. And one is like very simple: why I'm still here. Like, why I'm still here? Like, is it like because I'm still connected with my purpose? Is because I still deliver value? Is because I still deliver impact? The other one is about what I'm still committed to do to fulfill my purpose. What is that extra mile, extra challenge? And really checking in if I still live by my values. And my values, there are like, I think, four. I don't have 100. I learned through life to really go to a handful of values, which I do believe they are reflected also in my love language. And one of my values where I'm not gonna compromise, it's definitely creativity. So anything which stands in front of me, expressing me creatively and doing all the things which I enjoy doing, well, yes, we need to have a conversation. So creativity, and after that, um, courage, which is linked with challenge. I love a good challenge. I think people who are not inherently curious, and is going to be very hard to get out of the box. And curiosity is also helping you to really find those challenges which they will gonna give you the platform to grow and to learn more about yourself. Growth is my third value. I do believe that we are here because we need to be aware about our strengths, our weaknesses, and to work with ourselves to create a better version of ourselves. How you grow in this life. And growth actually is linked with purpose. The way how you grow is going to bring you closer to your purpose and to your aspirations. So when people are starting thinking about personal or professional growth, what I encourage them to do, I encourage them to really start with the most basic questions. What's my purpose? Do I have it defined or not? If not, let's define it. If it's defined, do I still connect with? What are my values? And what are my aspirations? I think these three things, each and every individual needs to start thinking about it, because that is the platform which is going to bring you from point A to point B. And that means growth.
Well, I could talk to you absolutely all day, but there are two things I want to mention. So when we spoke before the podcast, you talked about purpose and what's your superpower. And I'm imagining that if you don't know what your purpose is in life, it'll be much harder to find your superpower. But if you do know your purpose, how do you identify? Because I've been thinking about this since we last spoke, and I think I've identified my superpower. But I'd like you to talk a bit about it.
So so you identify your superpower. That's amazing, first of all.
I think so. I
That's
think so.
that's amazing. So coming back to our discussion, and when you asked me about how did you identify your purpose when you were like 20, and I explained the relationship and the fact that my mother was my first mentor, asking me the question, so what are you doing? Where are you going? Why you are here? What is your purpose in life? What do you want to leave behind? How people will talk about you. So when I was thinking at 20th, I said that, you know what, I think that my purpose here is to give and to help people grow because of all the previous experiences. That connected me with that triggered that. No, that was linked with my superpower, which I discovered already when I was 16, because through creativity and through the writing and creativity and poetry, it's also a sort of giving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when you discover your purpose, if you didn't discover yet your superpower, your next step is to discover your superpower. For me, the circle was a bit different. I discovered my superpower when I was 16, and for me, was that kind of oxygen that I can connect with my friends, with my mom. I could say things, maybe encrypted in metaphor, but I took them out. I took my feelings, my emotions out. And that, for me, even I was 16, it was a big realization. And I understood that becomes a superpower. So the process for me was, I understand the superpower, but my purpose came late. But when it came late, actually it's super totally linked with my
Yeah.
purpose, because it's a way of giving back, it's a way of connecting, it's a way of building relationships and building and creating an impact in someone's life through words. So you see, it's like, I
Yeah.
think
They're
it
totally
does
connected. Yeah.
everything is connected. And I think in the process of self-discovery and self-assessment, understanding your purpose is key, no matter what. The why you are here, why do you do what you do, what makes you tick in life. These are the questions regarding purpose which someone needs to answer. But somehow in that reflection process, definitely understanding your superpower becomes a by default process, because you understand what you like most doing and what you enjoy doing, and what is that ability or
Oh,
skill which really helps you transform yourself, and that is your superpower.
okay. I like it. And you have a book on this as well,
Well, yes.
which we didn't mention
uh,
at the beginning, because
I
obviously
didn't I did,
we're coming up to the hour, and I would love to keep talking to you, but we like to keep our podcasts within the hour, because otherwise it will be 3 hours. And I think today we could definitely do 3 hours so easily, and I think it's been absolutely fascinating. So tell people just a little bit about your book and where they can find your work. Where's the easiest place for them to connect with you?
so the easiest way, and for anyone to connect with me, it's LinkedIn. And
And
also,
the links will all be below.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I try to keep to LinkedIn because I think on LinkedIn we can, there is a community and we grow together on LinkedIn. It's not that the other platforms are not important, but I resonated a lot with LinkedIn. My book, and someone yesterday was telling me that, Laura, you are very humble, and that is the introvert in me. Remember, I'm an introvert, which I educated myself to become an extrovert. um, I like talking about the things I learned, but when it comes talking about myself, I'm a bit like, okay, let me talk about myself a bit. So yes, my first book, Stories with Purpose, is available on all Amazon platforms. Also, in a couple of weeks, is going to be available in Barnes and Nobles and the Walmart.
Oh, fantastic.
Um, it's ebook, but also print on demand. I I would love to have more time and to talk about the story behind the book,
Well,
but without.
we are gonna have you on again, 100%. And we've been talking about this idea of getting all of our authors that we have interviewed together, and doing an event. And I think you'd be amazing addition to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you in advance for this new invitation. Actually, I love being with you, ladies. I love the energy.
I
I
know we
love the
lost Janine. She
questions.
just said her Wi-Fi went. She just sent me a message there. So we were good to have her as long as we did. But yeah, it's been an amazing podcast, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your stories.
Thank you, Sarah. I of course I'm gonna thank Janine as well. It's a pity that that we wrap up without her.
Yeah,
For me, this discussion, it's such a priceless gift, and I really want to thank you, because these are the discussions which I really enjoy having with women and in any kind of format. And I really want to thank your listeners and your viewers, that they are tuning to your podcast, and to not forget to give us some feedback. So to give some feedback
absolutely.
about this podcast, and maybe also give us feedback about the topics and what they think about what we talked here.
Always,
And
always.
and I'm looking forward to have another vivid and inspiring conversations with you, ladies, because it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's been all pleasure was all ours. Laura, thank you so much. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in, for watching our podcast. Please, if you're on YouTube, do like, share, subscribe, and absolutely comment. We love to hear from our viewers as to how you found the podcast. And until next time, just want to say thank you very much and have an awesome week. Thank you.
Awesome week, everyone.